Here you can grab that song and put it out. A short song and we're going to sing. Madhava Kunja Bihari that verse over there. We'll just do that verse since that's on the board, you know. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskritya.
Narayanam Namaskritya.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Devim Saraswatyam Vyasam.
Devim Saraswatyam Vyasam.
Tato Jaya Mudiraye.
Tato Jaya Mudiraye.
Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 6, Purusha Sukta confirmed. And the 43rd sloka is on the board, and the verse will be 43, 44, and 45. We'll just do that since that's on the board. Okay, please repeat. Aham Bhavo Yagna Ime Pajesha. Aham Bhavo Yagna Ishme Prajesha. Daksaryo Ye Bavad Arayas Cha Daksaryo Ye Bavarayas Cha Swaloka Palaha Kadaloka Pala Swaloka Pala Kagaloka Pala Nriloka Palas Kalaloka Palaha Nriloka Palas Kalaloka Palaha Aham Bhavo Yaga Ime Prajesha. Daksaryo Ye Bavad Aryascha. Swaloka Pala Kagaloka Pala. Niloka Pala Kalaloka Pala. Aham Bhavo Jagai Me Prajesha. Daksaryo Ye Bavadara Ashyat Arayascha. Swaloka Pala Kagaloka Pala. Niloka Pala Kalaloka Pala. Ambabo Jagai Me Prajesha. Daksaryo Ye Bavadara Dadayascha. Swaloka Pala Kagaloka Pala. Niloka Pala Talaloka Pala.
Aham Bravo Yagna Ime Pajesa. Dakshatayo Ye Babadadayascha. Lokapala.
Trilokapala, Saralokapala.
Aham bhavo jagjai me prayeshaha.
Aham bhavo jagjai prayeshaha.
Aksadayo jevavam adayashaha.
Rakshadayo devadayasya.
Lokapala kalalokapala.
Swalokapala kalokapala.
Lokapala talalokapala.
Trilokapala, Saralokapala.
Aham bhavo yagi me pradesha.
Aham bhavo yagi me pradesha.
Sharayo eva vadadescha.
Daksharayo yevadayascha.
Lokapala kagalokapala.
Swalokapala kagalokapala.
Lokapala saralokapala.
Trilokapala, Saralokapala. Anyone else? Okay, we're going to skip doing the word-for-word translation since it's mainly names and places. And we'll do the translation. Everyone, please repeat. This is Lord Brahma. He's speaking to Narada, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. He says, I myself, please repeat, I myself,
I myself,
Lord Shiva,
Lord Shiva,
Lord Vishnu,
Lord Vishnu,
great progenitor
progenitors
of living beings,
of living beings,
like Daksha and Prajapati,
like Daksha and Prajapati,
yourselves,
yourselves,
Narada and the Kumaras,
Narada and Kumaras,
heavenly demigods like Indra and Chandra,
heavenly demigods like Indra and Chandra,
the leaders of Borloka planets,
the leaders of Urloka planets,
the leaders of the earthly planets,
the leaders of earthly planets,
the leaders of the lower planet,
the leaders of the lower planets,
the leaders of the Gandharva planet,
the leaders of the Gandharva planets,
the leaders of the Vidyadhara planet,
the leaders of the Vidyadhara planets,
and leaders of the Charnaloka planet,
the leaders of Chandraloka planets,
the leaders of the Yakshas,
the leaders of Yakshas,
Rakshas,
Rakshas,
and Urgas,
and Durgas,
the great sages,
the great sages,
the great demons,
the great demons,
the great atheists,
the great atheists,
and the great spacemen,
the great spacemen,
as well as the dead bodies,
as well as the dead bodies,
evil spirits,
evil spirits,
Satan's, jinn, Kushmandas,
Kushmandas,
great aquatic,
great aquatics,
great beasts,
great beasts,
and great birds,
and great birds,
etc.
etc.
In other words,
In other words,
anything and everything
anything and everything
which is exceptionally
which is exceptionally
possessed of power,
possessed of power,
opulent,
opulence,
mental and perceptional dexterity,
mental and perceptual dexterity,
strength,
strength,
forgiveness,
forgiveness,
beauty,
beauty,
modesty,
modesty,
opulence,
opulence,
and breeding,
and breeding,
whether in form
whether in form
or formless,
or formless,
may appear
may appear
to be the pacific truth
to be the specific truth
in the form of the Lord,
in the form of the Lord,
but actually they are not so.
But actually, not so.
They are only a fragment
they only a fragment
of the transcendental potency
of the transcendental potency
of the Lord.
of the Lord.
You have to look at the word-for-word translation here and see the word that Prabhupada used to translate spacemen. It's Siddha Ishwara, or the leaders of the Siddha planets. And in the English translation, they just use the word spacemen. The Siddha Ishwaras, there's a planet called Siddha Loka, where these beings all, from the time of birth, were possessed of all mystic powers and opulences. So, Srila Prabhupada's Divine Purport. Those in the list given above, beginning from the name of Brahmaji, the first living creature within the universe, down to Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu, Narada, and ever-powerful demigods, men, spacemen, sages, rishis, and ever lower creatures of extraordinary strength and opulence, including the dead bodies, Satan's evil spirits, jinn, aquatics, birds, and beasts, may appear to be the Supreme Lord, but factually none of them is the Supreme Lord. Every one of them possesses only a fragment of the great potencies of the Supreme Lord. The less intelligent man is surprised to see the wonderful actions of material phenomena. Is the Aborigines, or fearful of a great thunderbolt, a great and gigantic banyan tree, or greatly lofty mountain in the jungle. For such undeveloped human beings, merely the sight display of the Lord's potency is captivating. A still more advanced person is captivated by the powers of the demigods and goddesses. Therefore, those who are simply astonished by the powers of anything in the creation of the Lord, without any factual information of the Lord himself, are known as Shaktas or worshippers of the great powers. The modern scientist is also captivated by the wonderful actions and reactions of natural phenomena, and therefore is also a Shakta. These lower grade persons gradually rise to become Saryas, worshippers of the sun god, or Ganapatyas, worshippers of the mass of people, is Janita Janardana or Daridra Narayana, etc., in the form of Ganapati, and then rise to the platform of worshipping Lord Shiva in search for the ever-existing soul, and then to the stage of worshipping Lord Vishnu, the super soul, etc., without any information of Govinda, Lord Krishna, who is the original Lord Vishnu. In other ways, some are worshippers of race, nationality, birds, beasts, evil spirits, Satans, etc. The general worship of Sanidev, the Lord of distressful condition, and Sitala Devi, the goddess of smallpox, is also common to the mass of people. And there are many foolish men who worship the mass of people, or the poor class of people. So different persons, societies, and communities, etc., worship some of the potent manifestations of the Lord, wrongly accepting the powerful object is God. But in this verse, it is advised by Brahmaji that none of them is the Supreme Lord. They are only borrowed plumes from the original Almighty Lord Sri Krishna. When the Lord advises in Bhagavad Gita to worship him alone, it is to be understood that worshiping Lord Krishna includes worshiping all that is mentioned, because he, Lord Sri Krishna, includes everyone. When the Lord is described as formless in the Vedic literatures, it is to be understood that all these forms mentioned above, within the experience of universal knowledge, are different exhibitions of the Lord's transcendental potencies only, and none of them factually represent the transcendental form of the Lord. But when the Lord actually descends on the earth or anywhere within the universe, The less intelligent class of men also mistake him to be one of them, and thus they imagine the transcendence to be formless or impersonal. Factually, the Lord is not formless, nor does he belong to any of the multi-forms experienced within the universal form. One should try to know the truth about the Lord by following the instructions of Brahmaji. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport to the 43rd through the 45th slokas. The second canto, 6th chapter, Srimad Bhagavatam, Purusha Shukta confirmed. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada, the founder and Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, because he has opened my eyes which was shut by the darkness of ignorance. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadama Yandradati Shwapadantikam. When will Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within the material world the desire to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, give me shelter under his lotus feet. So even when Krishna was here 5,000 years ago, it is spoken in the famous Mahabharata, the greatest epic in the world, the longest epic in the world, much longer than Lydia and the Odyssey and so many other very long storybooks, tales, fables, whatever it be. Very few people could recognize him. They, especially the arch villain in the whole book, the Yogindra, always thought him to be one of them, another person with some mystic powers, powerful character, but couldn't really understand him to be the supreme absolute truth, the source of all. Even when Krishna displayed his universal form, as he did on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he also displayed it to the Yodin, Karna, and the brothers of the Yodin when they tried to capture Krishna, when he begged for peace before the war. Still, the Yodin thought it was just another display of mystic power and not really the Supreme Personality of God himself. Is his grandfather and his martial arts guru, Dronacharya and Bhishma, very clearly informed him. Still, he could not accept. So, this is the unfortunate nature of unfortunate souls who are covered by Maya. We fail to understand the absolute truth, even when it's explained by great personalities like Brahma or Shiva or the goddess Lakshmi or the original beings in the universe, the Kumars, these powerful beings, all are the heads of great lines of disciplic succession that appear within human society and explain the absolute truth. Our particular disciplic succession comes from Brahma to Narada to Vyas to Madhvacharya on down. Krishna himself makes another appearance in this particular yuga, the bad yuga, the Kali yuga. Krishna, of course, left at the end of the last yuga. And generally, we don't hear from him again in a day of Brahma. Generally, Krishna only appears in one day of Brahma. Of course, he incarnates many times, expanding through his Vishnu form. Vishnu, expands the material worlds. He's Krishna's expansion, and he expands the material worlds, and everything expands from Vishnu, and Vishnu himself expands, is sung by Jayadeva Goswami in his, Dasavatar song, Jaya Jagadisha Hare. So there are many, many expansions of Vishnu in the material world to protect religious principles, to protect the pious, and to chastise the miscreants in society. But Krishna himself, from his Goloka Vrindavan planet, the supermost planet, where we can find everything, there you'll find not only Dwarka and Mathura, but you'll find the most adorable place of the Lord's pastimes, Braja Bhumidham, or Goloka, the place where Krishna plays as a cowherd and enjoys with the village people, tending the cows in Sri Vrindavan Dham. That is the most adorable pastimes of the Lord, where all of his different rasas are displayed. Whereas with Lord Vishnu himself, generally we only experience the rasas or the mellows, the wonderful emotions of servitude and awe and veneration, and perhaps some small friendship with the Lord. But with Krishna, you have full friendship, like Krishna and Arjuna, or like his cowherd boyfriends in Vrindavan. And we also have a parallel relationship, is Ramchandra exhibited with his mothers and Dasara. With Krishna, you have not only Devaki and Vasudeva, but you have his foster parents, Yasoda and Nanda, who get to experience these childhood pastimes. And then we also have, beyond mortal conception, Krishna is a Madhurya Rasa, Krishna exhibiting his friendship with all of the cowherd girls in Vrindavan, as well as with all of his queens in Dwarka. But a difference in Vrindavan, because there's more intimacy or a greater experience of the rasa in youth, and not just in marital relationship. So, therefore, we never see Krishna having to do any work in one sense. Of course, he plays as a Kshatriya, and even in Vrindavan he's playing as a cowherd boy, but he's always playing. He doesn't do any work for creation. He just expands as Vishnu to maintain the universe. He arranges for a multitude of devas to manage everything. He doesn't have to do any work. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everything is done by his energies. And all of those energies he perfectly controls. Krishna is everything, but everything is not Krishna. I am not Krishna, you are not Krishna, you can't play like Krishna, we can never be Krishna, and neither can great devas. But Krishna can be anything. He can be Brahma, he can be Shiva, however, he already expands as Shiva from his casting a glance over the material nature at the beginning of creation. That glance comes out as Sambhu and becomes the father of the universe. So Krishna is everything. But the unfortunate souls cannot understand this, even when it comes down through the line of disciplic succession from great, powerful, saintly persons who teach the absolute truth. So in our disciplic succession, Krishna again came in this dark age of Kali Yuga, where there's a lot of misfortune, very short lives, rampant disease, so many problems. Krishna appears as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to teach this most intimate knowledge about Krishna. Because when Krishna left in the previous yuga, we all know from Bhagavad Gita, he says, Sarva Dhammam Prityaja, you give up all Dharma. Just surrender to me. Just surrender to me, Arjuna. And don't worry about anything. I will protect you from all sorts of karma. Don't worry, just surrender to me. Follow my direction, I will protect you. Give up all religion or dharma. And dharma is even more encompassed or greater than religion. Religion we may think of as worship and faith. But dharma means occupation. You know, it's even it's the occupation of a human or a living entity. So Krishna said, give up all occupations and just surrender unto me and don't work. So he taught that, but when he comes as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he teaches how to surrender to Krishna. We may hear Krishna say that, but we may not know how, because, after all, Arjuna is seeing Krishna face to face. So he's asking Krishna, what should I do? Should I fight this battle or not fight this battle? I don't want to fight this battle. Those are my relatives. Just let them have the kingdom. It's not worth it. I'll just go off and live as a mendicant. But Krishna teaches in Bhagavad Gita, no, you can't get out of your duty so easy. This is a betrayal. Your brother deserves to sit on that throne. He will lead the people properly, not the Yodin. He's counting on you. You're his greatest general, and you're going to walk off the battlefield? Do you know what will happen? Dishonor is worse than death for a person like you. And by your nature, you're still going to be forced to work. And we saw that, didn't we? The Pandavas were banned to the forest. They also had to live incognito for a year. And in all those pastimes, wasn't they forced to take up arms and fight some enemy to protect people? We had the famous pastime where they protected the Brahmana in that village where the Rakshasas would eat one family member every month. And when Kunti heard that, she sent Bhima to deliver the food to the Rakshasa. And Bhima slayed that Rakshasa. When they lived incognito, Bhima also protected Draupadi from the commander-in-chief of Virat's forces. When he attempted to molest her, Bhima killed him. So by their nature, they were forced to act. So they couldn't give up their duties, even when they were forced to behave as mendicants in the forest. So Krishna is telling Arjuna now, don't think you can just go off. And then what will people say of you? You walked away as a coward. And you're not talking about an ordinary person. We're talking about a great military leader. So it was unbecoming of him even to think such a thing. So, Krishna instructed him properly. But how do we surrender to Krishna? Yeah, we can all get that message. I have to do my duty. I have to do my duty. I have to do my duty. But especially in Kali Yuga, things always go wrong. And depression is rampant. All sorts of problems are rampant in Kali Yuga. So sometimes it becomes difficult for people to do their duty. Or even when you're doing your duty, things may come out right, they may not come out right. So, there's just so many problems in this particular age, for nations and communities and people in general. So therefore, Lord Chaitanya, he descends. Or Krishna descends as Lord Chaitanya. And he takes up the life of a devotee. Now at first, he's not necessarily just a devotee. He appears within the Hindu community who practice varnashram, so he has a particular varna, he has a particular ashram, a particular occupation, particular social status. And he's playing as a Brahmin. And he, of course, being God, he's just like when he was Krishna, he's the most powerful of the Kshatriyas. So as a Brahmin, he's the most powerful of the Brahmins. No one can stand before him and put forth their view is the best understanding of things, because Lord Chaitanya can easily put forth another view of greater value. And so all the Pandits, all the Bhattacharyas, the Mishras, all these big Brahmins, living in his town, and also throughout India, had to submit to this scholarship of Nimai Pandit. However, in the course of his life, things happen. And Nimai meets a very great devotee. And it's all a pastime for him, because this is God himself exhibiting his pastimes. But he's showing humanity how to be a devotee. So he's doing his duty, just as people learn from Bhagavad Gita. But in the course of time, he meets a great devotee. And he becomes inspired in devotional life. And begins to teach people basically that the world is full of problems and difficulties. The main duty in life is to remember Krishna and not to forget him. Everything comes from Krishna. Even in teaching Sanskrit, which is like, the big thing of the Pandits. They can pick the language apart backward and forward. They know all the meanings to all the roots, and they know all the different suffixes and all the syllables that you can put in front of the word to modify it and give it a different meaning. They know everything about it. And they can compose all sorts of things in that language. Even there, Lord Chaitanya began to teach that all of this comes just from Krishna and can be explained by Krishna's name alone. That all the roots come from Krishna, all the suffixes come from Krishna. It's Krishna that gives life to anything. He would explain everything through understanding Krishna. In this way, Lord Chaitanya became an example of teaching this Dharma, this Sanatana Dharma, this eternal Dharma of just surrendering to Krishna. That it's not so hard. You just remember Krishna and you don't forget Krishna. Now, he himself, to teach humanity, took the most difficult order of life. At a very young age, he became a sannyasi in order to save the world. Because otherwise people just disrespected. They thought, why are you crying for Krishna? You're wasting your time. This is just emotionalism. You must have some mental problems. This isn't a good thing. But so, because they would not show proper respect to him always crying for Krishna, he became a sannyasi, and therefore no one would try to instruct a sannyasi in that, that setting. It would be like us trying to teach some guy who's a PhD in biology, and we may know something about high school or college biology, but we certainly cannot. Or like a lawyer, we may try to tell a lawyer how to do a case, but we can't hardly quote any other cases in law, whereas this guy may know all the law books for a particular state and know so much about the law, and yet we're going to try to tell him how to argue a case. So no one would dare, criticize or tell a sannyasi anything about transcendence. They would simply be respectful and listen. So in that way, everybody was forced to listen to Lord Chaitanya and appreciate him. Of course, very quickly, people, it was contagious. Lord Chaitanya was the greatest minister for love of God. Because just by seeing and hearing him, people became affected. You would come before him one way as just an ordinary person with, your material mentality, but you would go away completely affected by his love for Krishna, to the extent that you also loved Krishna much more powerfully than you had ever experienced before, to the extent that you yourself would start crying for Krishna. And it was so powerful that all your family members would become affected. And all of their friends would become affected. That was the power of Lord Chaitanya. That he could bring love for Krishna to anyone. And this became, this he taught was Sanatana Dharma, was to love Krishna and to give love for Krishna. And that, this anyone could do. Despite our position in the world, anyone could give love for Krishna. Like, I don't know, this may not be the best example, but it's an example from the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srivas Thakur was a very dutiful Brahmana, but people didn't always understand his love for Krishna, and therefore sometimes they were frightened because he would chant Krishna's names loudly, and they were afraid of the repercussions that would come from the Muslim government. Because they were very bigoted and didn't allow the Hindu people to openly practice their religion. So they would many times threaten that you can't do this. The Muslims will not have any mercy on us. So it was eventually got back to the Muslim government, and they were going to send some people to check this out. And so Srivas Thakur was performing some worship to Lord Nrsimhadev for protection. And Lord Chaitanya at that time started to disclose himself as being the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Previously in the town, they just thought he was a great pandit. So he went to the house of Srivas and he said, "Who are you praying to? Don't you know I am here? Why are you afraid? If this king comes here, then I will simply change his heart, because I am the super soul within the heart of every being. And if he doesn't listen to me, then I will say, let's go to the court, and you bring all of your mullahs, all of your Muslim priests here, and let them read from their holy Quran, and let them fill us up with ecstasy for Allah. I'll let them give a demonstration of their spiritual potency. And then we'll see who will cry for God. And then when they're finished, I will round up all the wild animals, and I will bring them into the court, and I will make them all cry for Krishna before their very eyes. So what do you have to fear, Srivas Thakur? You have nothing to fear. Do not worry. There are many examples of that. When Lord Chaitanya was going to Orissa, at that time, the Orissan king was fighting with the king of Bengal, who was a Muslim. The Orissan king was Pataparudra Maharaj, and he protected the holy place of Jagannath Puri. But there was war between these two kingdoms, and there were spies everywhere, and no one trusted anyone because of the threat of war. So Lord Chaitanya was being taken down the river late at night by the boatman, him and his devotees, to go to Jagannath Puri, because no one would walk the roads during the day. You couldn't go from one. You couldn't cross the river over into Orissa. It was just too dangerous. No one trusted anyone. The Muslims wouldn't let the holy people go over there, and no holy people would go over to the other side. So as the boatman's rowing the boat, he's thinking, this is, Lord Chaitanya, he's singing kirtan, because that's his teaching, or that's his dharma. He's teaching everyone to just take shelter of Krishna's names and to always sing and chant Krishna's names. So they're singing Krishna's names. And the boatman, he's getting paranoid. He's thinking, oh my God, what's going to happen tonight? We're definitely going to be arrested and killed, or some pirates are going to plunder us, or if we pull off to the shore, the tigers are going to eat us. I don't know what's going to happen. And he starts to tell the devotees, please, softly, softly, it's dangerous here. So then Lord Chaitanya, he said, what is going on? You are afraid to chant the name of Krishna? I tell you, chant the name of Krishna. And he begins to chant loudly, and all the devotees chant loudly. And, they arrive in the safe area in Orissa and go on to Jagannath Puri. And even on that way there, they come to a place where there's a tax man, just like we have tolls on the road if you go up to New York City or someplace. There's so many toll booths, they take special roads, many of them in Florida. So there was tax people that to get through, you had to pay the tax because that's how they kept the roads up, etc. And so Lord Chaitanya, he's looking at him, and he's obviously a very great saintly person, and he's thinking, who is this person? He says, all right, I'll let you go, but the others have to pay. So Lord Chaitanya, he's in ecstasy, and he just goes on. And the others, he said, well, so what are you going to do? And they didn't have the fare, so he wouldn't let them go. But he inquired, who are you? He said, well, we are these students. He is our teacher. And then he hears this crying and wailing, like he's never heard before. And he sees it's that mendicant. He's sitting there crying. He's never heard anyone cry like this. And it starts to affect him so much that he himself begins to cry. And he says, so he is your teacher? Then you may go. And he goes and he falls at the feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Not only them, but even there were some of these Pathans. They are there today in Afghanistan, these tribal war leaders that live on that border between what is today Pakistan and Afghanistan. That they've been fighting, for God knows how many generations. They fought against the British. They fought against everyone. So some of these Pathans were there because many times there was, Afghanistan rulers that were, because the Muslims would fight amongst themselves for control of these different places in what we call India today. So 6 of these soldiers, they saw Lord Chaitanya and some of his devotees, where Lord Chaitanya had fallen into ecstasy and was laying on the ground. So the Pathans, they thought, you have plundered this person. You have tried to steal his wealth. Therefore, we will arrest you and punish you. And they said, no, this isn't true. They made up a story. He just had an epileptic fit. But, they would not buy it. Eventually, Lord Chaitanya came to consciousness. And he began to teach them. And those Pathan Muslim soldiers, all dressed in black, they all became devotees. And became famous as the 6 Pathan devotees of the Lord. So this was the power of Lord Chaitanya. He taught this Dharma, that despite what is happening in this material world, despite what is happening, if we just chant Krishna's name, because so many things will happen. We all face, birth and death, old age and disease. Those are the 4 main difficulties of life. But there are so many others there also. But all of them we can learn to tolerate and transcend simply by the chanting of Krishna's names. Those names are none different from Krishna. And it's like associating directly with Krishna. And the power to get through this material world and rejoin the Lord in his alila, or his pastimes, in the spiritual worlds, where there is no birth and death, old age and disease. There's only eternity, bliss, and knowledge. Sublime. So that is how Krishna consciousness movement meant to bring this message. Even when they have all these fires in Australia or California, devotees go out and chant because it will make it rain. Devotees, will chant despite whatever happens, because that is the teaching of Lord Chaitanya. We better take the opportunity to chant because this human life is very fickle. We're here one day, we're going the next. If we chant, Krishna is very merciful and he will protect us. So that's how we worship Krishna, is taught by Lord Chaitanya. We worship him by chanting his name. So therefore, this mantra, the Hare Krishna mantra, gets this name of Maha Mantra, the great mantra. Because anyone, as you can see, so many of us, we don't come from Hindu families. So what are we doing reading Bhagavad Gita and chanting Sanskrit slokas? You know, we may not even know the Sanskrit script. I mean, none of us, we were born with Romanized script to study. So what are we doing? You know, because the Maha Mantra and the devotees are so powerful that anyone can become a devotee of Krishna. There's no barriers. You know, it doesn't depend on a nationality or religion or anything like that. It only depends on one wanting to develop their love for God. And so therefore anyone, whether they come from Somalia, in fact, I believe that lady who's running for Congress, her people were Somalian. I didn't mean to. Samoans. So that's Tulsi Gabbard. If I'm not mistaken, her people were from that country originally and, you know, migrated to Hawaii. So how did she become a devotee? And she receives donations from the BJP's, the people who, I forget the name of it, that organization, that oversee that organization. Give her, you know, from Hindus living in America who are part of those organizations, give her political campaigns donations. But yet, she's not an Indian. You know, speaking, you know, the ethnic race of where she's from. She's an American from Hawaii, whose people came from Somalia. Not Somalia, what is that again? Samoa. So anyone, it doesn't matter where we're from. What matters is that somehow everyone has some love for God and can begin to see all others is God's children and become free from all these sectarian barriers that make people feel distant from others and even persecute others in the name of their own religion, perhaps. So, the power of the Hare Krishna movement is to make people lovers of God to the extent that we can see all others as God's children, despite, you know, their backgrounds. So it's actually went over time, so we want to stop here because it's time for the prasadam. And I thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Good job, sir.
Include the phone too.
Yeah, because I missed your whole week. I kept ready when I was coming to you.
Then you know,
One,
this is two.
and this is. Then from below. This is I have to give it to Because I took one more thing.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. You know, there's one thing, it's called Vasudev Kutumbakam. I don't know about Vasudev Kutumbakam. That means whole world is my family.
Oh.
The meaning of that word.
And that word, Kutumtum, that is
anybody
Sanskrit
can
or
join.
Gujarati?
It's Sanskrit.
That's
So
Sanskrit.
anybody can join. It's not consciousness. There is no color, no creed, no
Right.
nobody. And it's for everybody.
Got
So this one, that one, Vasudeva Kutumbakam goes follows with this. Okay, Prabhu. Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hey, Hare.
The steel posts put in the water, they all come up now.
Yeah, they can, but I still need the bush hog where they're going to go. So sometimes we're not ready because we need the bush hog, and plus that it gives an idea of the size of the building. So I just leave them up, Yeah, and then when I get that bush hog, then we can go with Shiva. I can see approximately where we put the building. I mean, I know where it's going to go, but then they have to go. So where we're going to park the cars and this and that. So I want to find out from him. There's an electric pole there, so I think it's going to be on one side of the electric pole, and the other side is going to be the parking.
There's a post and they come and approve the septic tank for that building. This is a much bigger septic tank.
Yeah, I may just use the same permit,
Oh,
if I can get by with it, if they don't say anything.
okay. Yeah, because it's a much bigger building. So probably don't want twice as much septic. Twice as much drainage.
Yeah, but they wasn't judging it by the size of the building, they were judging it by the use. They judge it by the use, how many rooms, how many rooms, and so I explained to him that it's just a guest facility for them. So he did his specifications like that.
But the new ones,
Well, only 4 guest rooms. Each with their own bathroom, but it's a kitchen and living room and lounge. And a courtyard in the middle. I'm leaving behind here.
I originally had a design, you never saw it, but I showed it to you. Courtyard and then arranged around it. Courtyard was open to the south, the sun would come in. But it was too expensive to do all that many walls.
Yeah.
Many linear feet of wall.
Hey, Krishna. Gopal's here today? Oh, good. Whose wife? Gopal's brother's wife. I didn't even know he had a brother. Hey, Krishna. Nice to see you. How are they fortunate to marry a nice brother here? Hey, Krishna. So, I'll have to, you'll have to get to.
Yeah, he's here. Yeah. He's walking around and go to the playground.
Did you have your child?
Yeah.
Well,
Well, not that young. She's still young. She's 6 months old.
oh,
Not ready for the playground.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.